The headache hit Princess Tavani during morning court, sharp and sudden behind her eyes. She pressed slender fingers to her temple, her violet skin darkening with concentration as she reached out with her gift. Every mind in the throne room opened to her like flowers in sunlight. Courtiers anxious about their petitions, guards alert but bored, her father the emperor radiating measured patience. Every mind except one. The human stood near the back wall, partially hidden behind a structural column. Tavani's telepathic sense slid past him like water off polished metal. Nothing. Not thoughts, not emotions, not even the baseline hum of consciousness that every living being produced. Just silence. She tried again, pushing harder. The attempt made her wince. It was like pressing against a wall that shouldn't exist. "Tavani?" Her father's voice pulled her back. "Are you well?" "Yes, father." She straightened in her seat, forcing her attention back to the merchant pleading his case about trade route disputes. But her gaze kept drifting to that empty space in her awareness. After court, she found Captain Vorath in the palace's eastern corridor. "The human," she said without preamble. "Who is he?" Vorath's crimson plating shifted as he turned. "Which human, Highness? We have several in the maintenance division." "The one in court today." Brown hair, maybe 30 cycles old, he was standing by the fourth column. "Ah, that would be Brennan. Thomas Brennan. He's our chief mechanic." Vorath's tone carried a hint of respect. "Best we've ever had. Fixed the environmental processors last week when 3 of our own engineers couldn't figure out the problem. I need to speak with him." Vorath's antennae twitched with surprise. "The mechanic? May I ask why?" Tavani hesitated. Admitting that someone could resist her telepathy felt like confessing weakness. Since her gift had manifested at age 12, she'd never encountered a mind she couldn't read. It had made her invaluable to her father, able to detect lies and hidden motives. It had also made her deeply lonely. "Personal curiosity," she said finally. "Send him to the West Garden in an hour." Thomas Brennan arrived precisely on time, his work coveralls clean but stained with the ghosts of old grease marks. He bowed awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with palace protocol. Up close, Tavani could see the calluses on his hands and the tired lines around his eyes. "Your Highness!" His voice was steady, neither awed nor defiant. "Captain Vorath said you wanted to see me." "Sit." She gestured to the bench across from her. The garden was private, enclosed by walls of climbing night blooms that wouldn't open until dusk. "I want to understand something. You're human." "Last time I checked." A slight smile touched his lips. "And humans don't have natural telepathic abilities." "No, ma'am, we don't." He settled onto the bench, hands loosely clasped. "Is that a problem?" Tavani studied him. Without telepathy to guide her, she had to rely on observations that felt crude and uncertain. His posture was relaxed but attentive. His eyes met hers without challenge or submission. He seemed genuinely puzzled by her interest. "Most species I encounter have some level of mental presence," she said carefully. "Even those without telepathic ability still project emotions, surface thoughts. But you, there's nothing. It's like you're not there." Understanding dawned on his face. "You tried to read me." "Is there a reason I can't?" Thomas leaned back, considering. "Human brains are different. We evolved without telepathy, so maybe our neural patterns don't broadcast the same way. I honestly don't know. I'm a mechanic, not a xenobiologist." He paused. "Does it bother you?" "Yes." The admission came out sharper than she intended. "I've never encountered anyone I couldn't read before." Must be useful, being able to read minds. "It's practical." "Lonely?" The quiet observation struck deeper than any telepathic probe could have. Tavani looked away, toward the coiled night blooms. "Why would you say that?" "Because if you can hear what everyone's thinking, you never have to wonder if they're being genuine. But you also never get to trust that they are." Thomas's voice was gentle. Every smile could be calculated. Every conversation something you've already heard in their head. The accuracy of it made her throat tight. "You understand that from one meeting?" I understand being alone in a crowd. He stood, brushing non-existent dust from his coveralls. Was there anything else, Highness? Come back tomorrow. Same time. His eyebrows rose. Why? Because I want to have a conversation where I don't already know the ending. Thomas Brennan returned the next day, and the day after that. At first, Tavani told herself it was intellectual curiosity. Here was a puzzle her gift couldn't solve, and she'd always been driven to understand things. But as days became weeks, she realized the truth was simpler and more complicated. She enjoyed his company. Thomas talked about his work with genuine enthusiasm, explaining how the palace's systems functioned in ways that made mechanical engineering sound like art. He asked her about Catherine history and politics with real interest, not the careful calculation of courtiers seeking advantage. And when she spoke, she had to watch his face to gauge his reactions, the slight crinkle around his eyes when he was amused, the way his attention sharpened when something intrigued him. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. You're spending a lot of time with the human, her father observed one evening over dinner. Tavani focused on her meal. He's interesting. He's beneath your station. He's brilliant at what he does. Your own engineers defer to him. Emperor Kelath set down his utensil, his blue eyes, so like her violet ones, sharp with concern. I'm not questioning his competence. I'm questioning your judgment. What do you know about him, really? I know he's honest. I know he's kind. I know. You can't read him. Her father's voice was flat. That's what this is about. He's a blank space in your world, and you're drawn to the novelty. The words stung because they held a fragment of truth, but only a fragment. You're wrong. Am I? Tavani, you're my daughter and my heir. Your gift is invaluable to this empire. But it's also made you vulnerable in ways you don't see. Kelath's expression softened slightly. Everyone you read thinks their honest self is being seen. With this human, you have no idea what he's really thinking. That's the point, Father. With him, I have to trust instead of knowing, and he has to trust that I'm not reading him, even though he knows I can't. It's equal. It's dangerous. The conversation ended there, but Tavani felt her father's concern like weight on her shoulders. That night, she lay awake in her chambers, reaching out with her telepathy across the palace. She felt the night guards, alertness, servants dreaming in their quarters, courtiers scheming in their sleep. And somewhere in the maintenance wing, an absence that had become achingly familiar. The next afternoon, Thomas didn't come to the garden. Tavani waited an extra hour, pacing the paths between flower beds. When the sun began to set and the night blooms started their slow unfurling, she finally left, embarrassment and worry churning in her stomach. She found Captain Vorath outside the throne room. Where's Brennan? The human? Vorath's antennae flattened apologetically. He's been reassigned. The Emperor ordered him to the frontier station at Kelmar. He left this morning. The frontier station. 3 months. Travel away. On the edge of Imperial space. Tavani felt the blood drain from her face. Why? I don't question His Majesty's decisions, Highness. She didn't confront her father immediately. Instead, she went to the communications hub and sent a message to Kelmar Station. Then she waited through 6 agonizing hours until the reply came back. Thomas's response was brief. I understand. It's okay. Take care of yourself. That night at dinner, Tavani didn't touch her food. Bring him back. Her father looked up from his plate. Who? Thomas Brennan. Bring him back from Kelmar. He's needed there. The station's systems are outdated and— Don't. Tavani's voice cracked. Don't pretend this is about the station. You sent him away because of me. Kelath was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed. Yes. You had no right. I have every right. I'm your father and your emperor, and I'm protecting you from making a mistake that could— Could what? Make me happy? The words burst out before she could stop them. I've spent my whole life surrounded by people whose thoughts I can hear. Do you know what that's like? To know that every compliment is rehearsed, every confession is calculated, every friendship is strategic. Thomas is the first person I've met who's truly honest with me because he has to be, and you took that away. Her father's expression hardened. You barely know him. I know him better than I know anyone else in this palace. Because with everyone else, I hear their thoughts and assume that's the truth. But thoughts lie too, Father. People think one thing and feel another. They convince themselves of things that aren't real. At least with Thomas, I have to pay attention to what he actually says and does instead of just reading the surface of his mind. And what if he's deceiving you? What if he's learned to mask his intentions somehow? Tavani met her father's gaze steadily. Then I'm no worse off than everyone else in the galaxy who can't read minds. I'd be making decisions like you do, Father, like every other being who has to navigate relationships through trust and observation and faith. The Emperor stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He paced to the window overlooking the city. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. Your mother was telepathic too. Did I ever tell you that? Tavani blinked at the unexpected shift. No, not as strong as you, but strong enough. She could read me most of the time. Kelath's shoulders slumped. It should have made things easier. Should have made our marriage perfect. No misunderstandings, no hidden resentments. But it didn't work that way. She heard my thoughts, but she never believed them. Always looking for the doubt underneath, the hesitation, the moment I might be lying to myself. She couldn't trust what she heard because she heard too much. He turned back to face her. That's what I fear for you, that your gift has made it impossible for you to trust anyone, even yourself. And now this human comes along, and because you can't read him, you think that makes him special. He is special, Father, just not for that reason. Tavani stood, moving to stand beside him. I'm not in love with an absence. I'm not drawn to a void. I'm drawn to Thomas because when I'm with him, I have to be present. I have to listen to his words, watch his expressions, learn what his silences mean. I have to engage with him as a person, not as a collection of thoughts I've already heard. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. You're right that I'm vulnerable with him, but I'm vulnerable with everyone, Father, just in different ways. At least with Thomas, I'm vulnerable in a way that forces me to grow. Kelath studied her face for a long moment. You're serious about him. I don't know yet, but I want the chance to find out. Her father was silent, the weight of his decision hanging between them. Finally, he nodded slowly. I'll recall him. But Tavani, if this ends badly, if he breaks your trust, don't come crying to me that I didn't warn you. I won't. She pressed her hand over his. Thank you. Thomas Brennan returned 3 weeks later, stepping into the West Garden with grease under his fingernails and exhaustion in his eyes. That was a long trip for a short assignment. Tavani wanted to run to him but forced herself to walk at a measured pace. I'm sorry, my father? I know. Captain Vorath told me. Thomas sat heavily on their usual bench. Your father's not wrong to be protective. But he was wrong to send you away without talking to me first. Was he? Thomas looked up at her. Tavani, I need you to understand something. I like you. More than like you, if I'm being honest. But your father has valid concerns. You're a princess and I'm a mechanic. I'm not from your world, literally and figuratively. And yes, you can't read my mind, but that doesn't mean I don't have doubts and fears and moments where I think things I shouldn't. I know that. Do you? Because I think sometimes you forget that the silence you get from me isn't purity or perfect honesty. It's just silence. I could be lying to you right now, and you'd have no way to know. Tavani knelt in front of him, taking his calloused hands in hers. Are you lying to me right now? No. How do I know that? You don't. But I choose to believe you. She held his gaze. That's what trust is, Thomas. It's not certainty. It's not proof. It's choosing to believe someone, even when you can't be absolutely sure. And yes, it's terrifying. Yes, I could be wrong. But I'd rather be wrong while trying to connect with someone real than right while remaining completely alone. Thomas was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. I'm not going anywhere. Unless your father sends me to the other side of the empire again. He won't. We came to an understanding, which was that if you break my heart, he's allowed to say, I told you so. A laugh burst out of Thomas, surprising them both. That's very reasonable of him. He's a reasonable emperor, most of the time. Tavani rose, pulling Thomas to his feet. Come on, I want to show you something. She led him through the palace to a rarely used observatory tower. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and violet. From this height, they could see the entire capital spread out below them, a city of spires and gardens, powered by systems Thomas helped maintain. This is where I come when the voices get too loud, Tavani said softly, when I need to remember that minds aren't the whole truth, that there's a physical world out there that exists regardless of what anyone thinks about it. Thomas stood beside her at the railing. It's beautiful. It is. She glanced at him. I'm glad you're back. Me too. They stood in comfortable silence as the first stars appeared. Tavani reached out with her telepathy, feeling the vast web of consciousness that was the city below. Millions of minds, each one broadcasting their fears and hopes and mundane concerns, and beside her, a perfect silence that felt more honest than any thought she'd ever heard. Can I ask you something? Thomas said eventually. Of course. When you read other people's minds, do you ever wish you couldn't? Do you ever want to not know? Tavani considered the question. Every day. My gift is useful, but it's also a burden. I can't turn it off. Even now, I'm hearing the guards 3 floors down, worrying about their shift schedules. I'm feeling the cook's pride over tonight's dessert. I'm sensing my father in his study, concerned about us. That sounds exhausting. It is. She turned to face him fully. But with you, Thomas, I get to rest. Not from hearing thoughts, but from the obligation to process them. When I'm with you, I can just be. Thomas smiled, the expression reaching his eyes. Then I'm glad I can give you that. The night blooms in the gardens below began to open, their bioluminescence creating patterns of blue and green light. Tavani breathed in the cool evening air and felt something in her chest unknot. For the first time in years, she wasn't alone in a crowd. She was simply alone with someone who chose to be there. It wasn't certainty. It wasn't the false security of reading someone's thoughts. It was better. It was real. Stay, she said quietly. Thomas took her hand, his grip warm and solid. I'm not going anywhere. And as the stars wheeled overhead and the city hummed with life below, Princess Tavani stood in silence with the one person she couldn't read, and finally felt understood. If you have enjoyed this story, tell YouTube to send you similar stories by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.